Today, we're diving into the world of one of philosophy's most, let's say, infamous minds, Arthur Schopenhauer. His ideas about why we suffer and what we want are, frankly, tough, but they're also incredibly insightful. So the question is, how do you explore his work without getting totally lost? Well, that's what we're here to figure out. So, let's start with maybe his most famous line. Life swings like a pendulum backward and forward between pain and boredom. Wow. I mean, it's pretty bleak, right? But if you're being honest, it also feels kind of true, doesn't it? We've all been there. And that one single thought, it's the perfect doorway into his entire way of thinking. So, does that ring a bell? That feeling of chasing something, wanting it so badly, and then you finally get it, and the feeling is just meh? Or boredom sets in? If you know what I'm talking about, then you've already had a little taste of Schopenhauer's core idea. For him, suffering wasn't some bug in the system of life. It was the system. So, let's talk a little more about the man behind these, let's call them challenging ideas. Arthur Schopenhauer really was one of a kind in the history of philosophy. He's known as the great pessimist for a reason. Okay, so Schopenhauer was a German philosopher back in the 19th century, and in his huge landmark book, The World as Will and Representation, he argued that underneath everything we see and experience, there's this blind, cosmic force he just called the will. Now, this isn't a thinking, planning will. It's more like a raw, irrational, unstoppable energy that drives absolutely everything, from a flower turning to the sun to our own deepest, most desperate desires. And, as you can probably guess, he thought this will was the root of all our problems. Now, you might be thinking, okay, that's fascinating. I should probably read some of his stuff. And that's a great instinct. But, and it's a big but, trying to read Schopenhauer for the first time can honestly feel like being dropped into the middle of a labyrinth, with no map. I mean, his ideas are all woven together in this super intricate web. The writing itself can be incredibly dense, just packed with abstract concepts and all these different layers of meaning. It is so easy to get turned around and just give up. And that's a real shame because it means missing out on some truly profound insights. But what if you did have a map for that labyrinth? What if you had a key? Well, that's exactly the idea behind a book like the Schopenhauer Dictionary. It's a guide built specifically to help you navigate his world. The best way to think about a tool like this is as a kind of portal. It doesn't do the journey for you, but it gives you a clear way in. It helps untangle all those interconnected ideas by explaining the key terms, and it acts as the steady companion you can turn to so you never feel totally lost when you're reading his actual work. So you know what? Let's put this idea to the test. Let's use this dictionary approach to break down a few of Schopenhauer's biggest concepts and see how they all snap together. Okay, let's start with the big one, the will to live. This isn't just you and me wanting to survive. For Schopenhauer, this is that huge cosmic will showing up in every single living thing. It's that relentless drive that makes us eat, sleep, have kids, all without any real logical endpoint. And because this drive can never, ever be truly satisfied for good, it ends up being the engine of all our suffering. And this quote just perfectly captures the whole problem. He's saying that every time we want something, it's because we feel like we're lacking something. We're in a state of suffering. Sure, getting what we want stops that one specific pain for a second, but for every one wish you satisfy, there are 10 more lined up right behind it. It's a game you just can't win. Which brings us to his idea of suffering itself. See, for Schopenhauer, suffering isn't something that happens to us sometimes. It's the factory setting. It is the default state of being alive. And this part is key. Pleasure isn't the opposite of suffering. No, pleasure is just the short break you get from the pain before the next desire rears its head and the cycle starts all over again. Okay, so are we just completely doomed? Is there any way out? Well, Schopenhauer did offer a few escape hatches for temporary relief. And one of the most beautiful is art. Think about it. When you're completely lost in a piece of music or just staring at a breathtaking painting, you kind of forget yourself, right? You forget what you want, you forget your worries. For just a moment, you stop being a slave to the will. Just like he says here, art gives us this little glimpse of something eternal, something true that's hidden behind all the chaos of our daily lives. It doesn't fix the fundamental problem of existence, but it offers this tiny moment of transcendence. And suddenly, you can see how these big ideas, the will, suffering, and art, they all lock together. They form a complete, if a little grim, picture of the world. And that's the whole point. You can learn these definitions one by one, sure, But seeing how they connect, that's what transforms a difficult philosopher into a genuine companion for your own thinking. So a guide like this fundamentally changes the experience. What feels daunting when you're on your own suddenly becomes accessible. What was bewildering starts to feel enriching. All those fragmented, confusing ideas, they start to form a coherent, clear picture. It means you get to actually engage with Schopenhauer's genius without getting bogged down in the struggle of just trying to understand what he's saying. It really empowers you to explore these deep and, yeah, sometimes dark ideas completely on your own terms. So if any of this has sparked your curiosity, if you're feeling that little pull to understand desire and suffering, and maybe even art on a much deeper level, then this is honestly the perfect next step for you. We've put a link to purchase the Schopenhauer Dictionary right in the description. So I leave you with a final thought, one that really gets to the very heart of Schopenhauer's challenge to us. What if we've all been asking the wrong question? What if the point of life isn't to chase happiness, but to figure out how to transcend suffering? Something to think about.